pick you up on this, Mr. Musa. That's exactly the executive legislature issue is what I wanted to ask you, and I would like you to put this in this context. Well, hitherto, the legislature-executive relationship is usually politicized, and the executive and the legislature must work together in order for people to have good governance. If we politicize governance, I don't know how helpful can that be. So what do you think can be done in this 9th National Assembly that will help the government to work hand in hand in a way that they're able to fast-track development for the people? How can we depoliticize governance?
I think it is very simple when you put the country first. If the overall interest is Nigeria and also working for the Nigerian people, I then see how we will repeat the mistakes that we have experienced in the past. Take for instance, if you know as a legislator, your role and responsibility is to make law for good governance. So irrespective of whatever political party you come from, you should be able to ensure that you contribute in ensuring that we have legislation that will guarantee and ensure good governance, transparency, and accountability. So in that case, you know that you have responsibility as a responsible lawmaker to put the interests of Nigeria, to put the interests of the people first, rather than just your own self-centered interests. At the same time, you did not also compromise because you have the trust of the people that elected you. So you need to make sure that in terms of your oversight, in terms of your constituency accountability, in terms of the lawmaking, this lawmaking must reflect the yearning and aspiration and the interests of Nigeria and Nigerians. So if you understand that, whatever comes from the executive, you will be dealing with it from that perspective of national interest. At the same time, also the executive, if they understand that they must also work together with the legislature to give them their respect, to not undermine them, not to coerce them, not to blackmail them, not to push them in a manner that would lose respect or their own independence. I think we would all be in the same table. So there should be a kind of consultation, constant dialogue, because politics is about really discussion, dialogue, understanding. So if you, as an executive, you have an issue, you discuss with the legislature even before you begin to trade words. I think that is why the president has a liaison officer, in the both House of Representatives and the Senate, and they should be able to have people who have the capacity to be able to transmit Mr. President or the executive issue. At the same time, also the legislature, when they have an issue, they should be able to also point out those things without fear or contradiction. I think if we all understand and appreciate the roles of each other as enshrined in our constitution and put the overall interest for Nigeria, we should not be able to we should be able to actually do things that will smooth this relationship. This relationship does not mean that you, legislator, you should not do your work because you want to respect
we hear you, but we need you to shed some light. Could you shed some light on what you mean when you said, when you also talked about the political war, you talked about social inclusion and economic inclusion. What would economic inclusion entail?
The economic inclusion should entail, first and foremost, we need to look at the economic policy framework that we have currently. We have, issues, a lot of policies that we have now currently, I think need to be reviewed in order to ensure participation of many Nigerians in the economic sector. I had mentioned earlier on that, we need to look at the petroleum industry, reform, which is the bulk of where our economy, or income is coming. And if you don't deal with that area to ensure efficiency, to ensure, transparency, to ensure that, there's a less burden from the government, I think, we would continue to repeat ourselves. So it is an opportunity for the government to revisit, this area of the economy. Agriculture is very, very important. We need to also expand, our, economic base through, bringing in innovation in the agriculture. also industrialization. This is one area that I think is lacking, and it has a lot of potential to turn the economy. And if government can look at, the industrialization policy that we have, I think, a lot of factories and industries in this country, they have all collapsed. They are not working because we do not have the right policy framework in place.
In addition to that,
look at those
in addition to that,
guarantee
my apologies for jumping in. One key area that many think will, if not jumpstart some of those industries which you talked about, is power. How do you see us faring? What do you expect to see in the power sector in the next 4 years?
Well, I want to see, first and foremost, we all know that there has been problem, in the area of power generation in this country. And I think, this is not something that is impossible if we have the political will to address this, because we have other countries that are, actually generating this power. And, now there's nothing, virtually everything you want to do now that will have to do with the productivity has to do with power, So you need to give utmost priority to ensure that, the problems identified. If you do not have study on what has happened, what has gone wrong, quickly embark on a study to see where are the problems, where are the gaps, so that we can actually deal with this issue. Because we cannot afford to continue to repeat darkness in Nigeria. Nigerians have suffered, and that is why job creation suffers. Many Nigerians, they are not looking for a government job. If you provide portable, regular, electricity, I can assure you that Nigerians are very innovative. Nigerians are willing to begin to do their small business to be able to do that. And with that, government can even generate income. So rather than even giving Nigerians, money, Nigerians, when they are productive, they can even be contributing and be given reasonable tax, But if this electricity is not there, there's little or no, the productivity, the potential of Nigerians will not be harnessed.
Okay, if I may come in here, Malam Musa, if I may come in at this point, when you talked about inclusiveness and having women more participation in the government, having the youths especially have more participation as we go forward, what would you say about some young candidates who presented themselves up for the presidency, to run for president for these elections? Do you see, for instance, that in the discussion of inclusiveness, that they will be brought in at some point to be part of a government that wants to be inclusive and carry everyone and ensuring that no one is left behind? Do you see that happening?
If I were Mr. President, honestly speaking, I would not lose the potential of those young people that have proven to be, people of resource. Because if you look at some of the candidates, really, honestly, if they are given chance, they have a lot of, ideas that they can, give to this government. So if I were to be Mr. President, I would extend my hands of fellowship to these young people. Never allow them just to go with these ideas, because it is not going to be beneficiary to the country. It will be more beneficiary to Nigeria, if you invite these young people, especially those young presidential aspirants that have been touring this country, going around, coming up with very marvelous, fantastic ideas on how to actually, move Nigeria forward. I will appeal to Mr. President, he should actually extend his hand of fellowship to get these, young people with vast ideas, with, capacity, demonstrated capacity to be able to contribute to the nation building. I think it is a period that we need, inclusiveness. We need, people who have proven to have capacity and ideas and have track record. So if I were Mr. President, I would also invite this.
Okay, if I may just come in here, because you've addressed that one.
Government.
You've addressed that one. If I may pick up on just two more things. How do you expect that this government would tackle the issue of strikes? Because it plagued the first 4 years, and with hopes that it will not happen again. How will they attack the issues of strikes, especially in the health sector and the education sector?
I think these are all issues that, if we have political will, we will be able to address this issue. For example, if you, bring in all the stakeholders from the different, sectors. For example, let's say education. If we bring in the stakeholders, including ASU, we have in the past identified that one of the problems we have is funding. Nigerians, university or tertiary institutions are no longer, conducive for learning. So if you, genuinely want to address the issues of strike, you need to bring in all the necessary stakeholders to discuss on how we can move on, on educational sector, so that we can begin to produce, people, of quality. Because it's not good that Nigerian universities now, half of the time they are on strike. And many of these places, they don't have learning conducive atmosphere. The quality or the qualified teachers or lecturers that you have, many of them had to leave because they need to survive. It's not nice that a professor who has spent 30 years, 35 years, teaching, he is earning, less than probably a counselor. I don't think it is right. I think we need to review the conditions of service. We need to ensure that we fund education and make it affordable. Many of these, officials that are in government today, they all went to public school. Why can't they also apply the same
in addition to that,
to ensure that public institution works?
Yes.
At the same time, also when you look at the health sector have collapsed in Nigeria, in the sense that even our officials, they have to travel abroad. I think we have opportunity now to ensure that we fund properly and ensure transparency and accountability in service delivery. I think if we all have these, stakeholder meetings and put in place policy reforms that will respond to all these, problems that we have, which corruption has actually undermined them, the inefficiency, the indiscipline. If we can check all those places, I think we will be able to, move on in some of these areas that we can, do it as quickly as possible. So, if I were Mr. President, I will set up a team that will review the social sector issue, namely health, education, water and sanitation, and
so there's a lot on the table
areas in that respect.
Well, there really is a lot, and many Nigerians are looking forward to a lot of things to be put in place, as you say, for that inclusive government. We do appreciate your coming on this morning on the program. Awal Musa, Executive Director, CISLAC. Well, that's not all. We'll be back in a moment. There's still some grounds to cover. Don't go away.